you see an original race car that still goes fast, it's just really touching emotionally.
It feels so mechanical. You know, your heart starts pumping to the beat of the exhaust sounds.
It's like uncovering a completely new sense. The feelings that arise when you're in the presence of these vehicles.
These cars are unique. These cars aren't in production anymore. A lot of the mechanical elements of them aren't used. And so it's sort of a one-shot time to get that car with that driver out on a racetrack and take data from that.
Working on this project really was a dream come true because I got to work on my favorite car since childhood, the underdog Ford GT40 that beat Ferrari 4 years in a row in Le Mans.
It's like every kid's dream car, really. And to see one in person, be able to climb all over the car, be under the car, get in the driver's seat, hooking things up, and getting stuff to work, it was really cool.
The Porsche Abarth Carrera was the first car that I was privileged enough to work with in the collection. It was certainly the first car in my life of that caliber that I'd ever been close to, let alone touched, sat in, you know, head under the floor trying to get all my wiring in there. And it actually made me fall in love with Porsches.
One of my favorite cars is the 1963 Corvette Grand Sport. The engine is insane. You don't want to be standing behind it without earplugs, and yet it still has a certain elegance to it.
People talk about cars being sexy. B35AE looks a little bit more like a tank, but being able to see the car in action and know that this same car was the one being raced by Eddie Hall in the 1930s, it was special to see it active today. It was an active artifact.
I've used very high-tech laboratory equipment to analyze historic vehicles to figure out how to preserve them on a molecular level. The first project was with the Cunningham C4RK, and it's an iconic sports car that was built in the 50s by Briggs Cunningham to win the Le Mans for America. I rounded the corner in the museum and just seeing it sitting there, even though it was immobile, it sits with such an aggressive stance. It just made the hair on my arm stand up, and it was just incredibly exciting.
It's also a great experience to get to talk to the drivers themselves. They'll come right off the track and they'll describe the experience for you.
They love sharing their car stories and their racing stories and what they've learned over the years. They love sharing it with younger students. They get a really big kick out of it.
Just to hear their perspective firsthand, it kind of puts you in the driver's seat as well.
I have to say, I think I've learned a lot from the people who take care of the car.
And the guys who work on the cars are just phenomenal wealth of information.
These people know things, like intimate things about these vehicles that they've worked on that you can only get from years of experience and from the sort of passion that they bring to this job.
It's been a complete revelation working with the Revs program. It's totally changed my idea of what my career path was going to be. I would never have thought that I would be able to marry my childhood love of vintage race cars and my adult passion for neuroscience. I never thought I would be able to do that.
Everything that I've done since then has, to some extent, built off my summer with the Revs program.
The mission of Revs is to bring the automobile to the center of the university. Really, what's happening is all of the research is surrounding the car, and the car is that glue that holds us all together.
This is an absolutely inspiring experience.
There's no better opportunity to exercise what you learn in the class than to step into a page of history and to just see these cars in action, work on them, to really understand what the engineers, what the racing drivers, what these car companies were thinking in that time.
Having access to these vehicles and keeping them around, I think, is profoundly important for future generations, and that's one of the reasons I love working with Revs, is because their passion is in figuring out ways to preserve the history of the automobile while also promoting the future of the automobile.